Hello hero, it's Lucy Lannon. Sorry about the slight gap in time there, had a bereavement and took a few days, but we are back with something new and sparkly. While I was away, I purchased this VAV Marseille. Sorry about the butchering of that pronunciation, but I am not French, nor do I speak French, or I haven't since school anyway. I can get snippets. Anywho, that's not important. What is that this deck is absolutely banging. It's full of these like Tommy Cash looking motherfuckers that should be covered in boils because it was created in 1650, and I just like its vibe. I want to read more with it. So we're going to start, sorry, some of these are in reverse. I will sort that out as I'm chatting to you. We're going to start doing mini Marseilles. I say mini. This is not going to be the TikTok version of mini. It's not going to be a 2 minutes and you're out, or hopefully not anyway. But it's my version of mini. It's not as long form as my private readings, linked down below. It's not as personalised because it's a general reading. And I wanted to do something that was a bit of a lucky dip, a bit of a esoteric tombola. So we've got these envelopes that are from A to Z that have got random words in them. You also, if you're watching, can suggest words down in the comments. I'm not going to take any names of people, be they first names or surnames, just because I think having people by name in a very public reading is not so ethically groovy as looking into a person in a private reading. And I'm not going to take place names because they're very politically charged, especially at the moment. And I don't want to get into that kind of material on the channel, kind of unless I have to. So I hope you understand why no proper nouns, but nouns are fine. And random words, no matter how random, no matter how niche the word you think, it absolutely is eligible for going into this lucky dip or tombola or hat or whatever it is that you choose to call the envelopes. But for today, we're picking words beginning with the letter A exclusively, and we're going to have this split into 3 piles once I've made sure that there are no more reversals, just because this is the only deck with which I don't actually read in reverse, because it's more of a cartomancy tarot hybrid kind of a reading. What else should I say just while I'm doing this? The crystals that have come up for you today are very protection heavy. So I don't know whether some of you are dealing with that. I certainly have been. The last couple of weeks I've had some really bizarre, like disingenuous energy, jealousy, shade, copycatting, all kinds of weird stuff going off. And that may be true for you as well. If you're watching this at random and you've kind of just discovered me, that may be something that is confirmation for you that I know what I'm doing here. Or indeed that you do need to protect yourself, hence the lemons and the salt. Some of you will know what that does, some of you won't. But about that, if any of you do feel you need a bit of extra protection, bearing in mind the crystals that have come out, it's absolutely fine to put some energy and intention into the lemon and salt pieces, because I will be using them for my own stuff later. If this is an uneven number of cards that I'm laying out, by the way, it's fine, because I am going to reshuffle them for each pile. I'm just doing stuff live so that you guys can see that it all is live and that I'm legit and whatever, because I'm a relatively new channel. Although I'm not new to this, I've been doing it 20 odd years and I've been reading for at least 11 of those in a tarot sense, but let's just say augury happened since childhood. What else needs to be said? Yeah, the pearls may be a nod to ancestor work, because I was called to include them from somebody that I work with in my line. Although it could again be protection, because she's very feisty. She's a feisty one. We have quite a few feisty females in my immediate lineage, going back to sort of great-great-great-grandmother, where I have pictures of them and artefacts, etc. But anyway, it's a call to, if you've been floating around with the idea of ancestor work, absolutely pop that in there. Or if you're looking for a protection method, then calling on your ancestors for help. If you feel a bit iffy about somebody in your life, that may be the thing. If you don't feel iffy, but you're just generally like getting a vibe that not all is well and that not everybody's intentions are great, that equally applies. But I'm getting the message with some of the crystals that it's very specifically centered around one person for many of you. And also we've got a couple of, the protection ones were the Weepy Jet, Black Onyx or Onyx, Gold Obsidian, which is also for scrying if any of you are into that, and black tourmaline, but we've got 2 types of fluorite with it as well in terms of colour types. Now fluorite is about electromagnetic protection, protection of devices, which hits because if you're seeing this, it's probably Mercury retrograde, but also protection around things to do with the online world. So it may be that you interact with a person that you need to be watchful of, mostly online, mostly on your phone using, rather than text or call, it's like apps. Yeah, that may, if some of you are like, I don't know, I could be imagining it, but that's how you contact them, you're not imagining it. There's some envy or competition or a bit of like just shade being directed your way by this person, whether they're conscious of it or not, and it's absolutely fine to protect yourself in whatever way you see fit. If you don't know how to do that, if you're completely new to any of the stuff associated with tarot, sometimes it's as simple as imagining like a bubble of light around yourself and just saying aloud that you kind of want this person's intentions to diffuse and drift off, and that you call on whatever it is you believe in, even if that's only yourself, to protect and guide you as you move forward and deflect anything that needs deflecting. That all said, wow, that was quite a mouthful, wasn't it? Sorry about the never-ending candle. The original gingerbread candle freed his horses, R.I.P. We enjoyed working with him so much and enjoyed the smell so much that I've put another candle in that candle, which did involve me hacking into a regular dinner candle, with the kind of efficacy of someone removing a leg in a horror film or something. It was very like, ah! But anyway, that's some of you didn't want that imagery, some of you definitely did, and you are my tribe. But that's why the never-ending candle. Sing the song down below if you know it. And I apologise for how unbougie it looks, but hey-ho, it's how I roll, I guess. Sorry about that, guys. Camera cut out a little bit there, but I am here, I promise. I'm going to do channeling for each of the individual piles before we lay out, kind of before you pick your pile, if you haven't already. So I'm just going to hover my hand over the relevant one, 1, 2, 3, and if the message you're getting is for you and you have been on the fence about that pile, or indeed about me, then that's the one for you. If you don't want those channel messages, or you're happy to pick your pile in the way that you see fit, maybe you want to listen to what's there, maybe you don't, that's absolutely fine, but I am going to do this. Just because it's always nice to get stuff without the cards and, receive, I suppose. Okay. These are general. I should say before I begin that all of this is general readings, so it won't be as accurate as getting a personalised reading from me down below in the link. First message for pile 1. I'm hearing the Tenacious D song, but specifically the part... I'm showing my age here that I know all the words, but specifically the bit where it says, "The demon code prevents me from declining the rock-off challenge." So you might be a Tenacious D person, you might be a Dave Grohl person, or you might be working with contracts that it is difficult to get out of once you get in. Some of you, I know you know what that means. Naughty, naughty. Just make sure that the contract holder, in any case, is someone that it is okay to negotiate with, and that indeed you are familiar with their usual terms of negotiation. That is all I will say upon that, because I don't want to freak out anybody else on my channel, just because some of you are weird, right? But it's not a don't go for it, it's a please do your research, don't be an idiot, okay? There's also someone who's dyed their hair pink. It's very nice, it looks amazing, from what I could see. Yeah, it really suits you, but part of why it suits you is a non-physical thing, because you're incorporating a kind of softness into your appearance that you didn't have, or that you were a little bit afraid of before you saw this, or, you know, you've just recently come into this idea that being a bit soft, being a bit gentle, receptive, being seen as delicate sometimes is okay. It's not, it doesn't need to be terrifying for you. And that's why the hair, but it's also why it suits you so well, because there is that gentleness. And definitely, yeah, you're a very, I'm not going to say a soft person, because that's so often used in a derogatory way, even though it's ridiculous. But you are a complete and complex person, and you can incorporate softness and femininity into the way that you appear. Or femininity under patriarchy, I should specify, because pink is not just for us girls. But you know what I mean. There's that soft, receptive energy, and it's okay for you to express that now. It's all right. You don't have to protect all the time. You don't have to defend. Defense. Military stuff. Some of you are ex-military and you're watching this and you're like, I don't know whether I believe in this, but tell me I'm ex-military and I might. Hi. Or some of you do government work with military contracts as well. Either way, how do, welcome. Big shakes. Did you see that? Okay. Some of you have been having your hand held. Physically or metaphorically. And it's all right. Okay? So if you feel something holding your hand in the night and it's not your partner, that's fine. It is all, benefic and lovely, and just an opportunity to explore what you feel that might be. For those of you that doesn't apply, it's being handheld in the sense of like you're being taken step by step through something, and that's okay because you are a beginner in that thing. And it's good to have a beginner mindset. It's good to be a beginner and just be open and be like, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing. I do need a little bit of help. I receive this help with gratitude. It's okay. You don't have to feel dodgy about yourself for the fact that you needed to ask for help in some cases. That's a big pile one thing. Blimey. It's a very expressive pile. Big fifth house. It's like vibrating my hand. It's ridiculous. Some of you are doing vibrational work, but that's only for some. Okay. Come on, give me some more. Give me some more. Queens of Stone Age, back to the Tenacious D, Dave Grohl references. I'm also smelling irises, but I'm getting a connection to the song Iris. I'm really showing my age with this pile. I suspect you're my age or older if you're pile 1, mid-30s-ish, because I'm getting a lot of songs from when we were younger, specifically Iris by Goo Goo Dolls. Remember when it was cool to like them? I kind of miss those days that were less cynical, but anyway. Yeah, smell of irises, or the name Iris, or irises in some way. Some of you are very closed off to this process. Some of you don't like the fact that I'm channeling and I'm saying these things, and you think it's shifty. You think it's like that I'm using your confirmation bias against you. And you're free to stay or free to go, man. Like, you don't have to be on this channel. You don't have to give me any money. I'm not out here to con you. I'm out here because I really believe that this is doing good for everybody involved. So if you have those kind of feelings, it's okay. But also I'm saying this directly to you. So that's kind of a disclaimer in that sense. Like, don't feel so skeptical, it's fine. Something from one of my teachers that I really like to reiterate for anybody who does feel like that and doesn't see tarot in the way I see it, which is like suitable for atheists as well, is that we concentrate a lot in this world on what is true and not what has utility for us. So it may be a useful thing to treat this as a thought experiment or something that you can kind of run along and play with and have that playful laid back, I don't have to believe this to it, and then just see how you feel. And if you still feel like hackles are up, that's fine, and tarot is perhaps not for you. But I'm getting specifically that somebody doesn't like that I just said the smelling of flowers thing, because it reads to you like a TV psychic or like a spiritualist church type thing to say, and that doesn't sit right with you because of your background. And I get that. I'm from similar backgrounds and similar... I had that journey of skepticism before I came to magic, shall we say. So that's okay. Middle finger is tingling. You can put your middle finger up at me. That's all right. I don't mind. But if there is any part of you that's like, why is this being said for me? Stick around, and there may be something just psychologically useful that you find out, all right? But you don't have to run along with it. You don't have to play with me all the way, okay? Equally, for my religious friends, you don't have to be engaged with anything that you find frightening here. I don't work with anything that I find frightening, put it that way. So don't worry about that. But there's expressiveness, but there's also strong defensiveness. So I don't know whether that's for anybody who's considering pile 1. All right, let's move on, because I'm not fully liking all of that energy. Before we do, social engineering, strategy, defensiveness in the social sphere or the workplace. Some of you have been reading your Bob Greene, which is great. I highly support that. Some of you have been just defending yourself more than normal, or obeying the kind of which is pyramid silence bit or closed practice or whatever, giving away less about yourself in a strategic fashion is what I'm getting, and that is a good thing for you. I highly encourage it. It's being encouraged here, but there is a message of don't go so far with it that you're afraid to express yourself, because you are a naturally expressive person, which is what was picked up on earlier. So don't always presume the worst in everybody to the extent that you become more closed off than you were. But if people that are trying to overstep your boundaries have told you that you've more closed off recently, that's a reflection of them trying to get kind of in your energy and in your head a bit, and not actually of you being that closed off, if that makes any kind of sense. So basically, if you feel good about a person and they're telling you that you're closed off, it might be that you're overdoing it with that area of research. But if you're feeling a bit weird about a person and you can't put your finger on it, even if you trust them, and they're the ones telling you you're closed off, just be aware that that's more to do with them and what they're attempting to do than it is with you, and that you need to keep your boundaries up and you need to keep private things private, etc. Okay? Right, that really is it with pile 1. Let's move on to pile 2. That was the bit that I didn't like that I had to incorporate. Okay, pile 2. Oop, whoa there, my cable's flying around. Organise your cables for a start. We've got this, the aforementioned electromagnetic, but also your space in terms of devices is just... it's either messy or like internally messy, like where you might have a neat setup but lots of folders with disparate things in, or you need a defrag or whatever. But there's some messiness around electronic equipment that needs to be sorted out before you go any further. Maybe even before you go further in this reading. Like, feel free to pause this and come back to it when you've sorted your system out, or you've, tied a few cables to the wall here and there, or whatever it is that you need to do. For some of you also, you have a rabbit and you need to be a bit more vigilant with protecting the rabbit from cables if it's a house bunny. That's really specific, but I'm just saying what I see. Or a guinea pig, but I'm getting strongly rabbit. No, it is rabbit. Just make sure your cables are all tidied away. That includes the cables that are not connected to anything live, because it could still chew through stuff that's in your bag or whatever if it has access. So just heads up. If you have a hungry bunny, and bless it, it's wonderful. What else? On blessings. Some of you are about to go to, or have just got back from Lourdes. That's really specific, but... shout out to my Lord's crew, I've been many times, I love it. Or you're working with like Marian traditions in a way that you hadn't done before, or with archangelic stuff that's leaning in a Marian direction, or leaning towards... I'm hearing something and I don't understand it myself, but I'm going to repeat it. It's leaning towards the relationship between Michael and Mary. Now, I don't mean romantic, obviously, but there's some kind of doubling up of correspondences between Marian stuff and Archangel Michael stuff that is vibing with you at the moment, and this is just to say this is your pile and well done. Keep doing that stuff, keep connecting with those things. They're certainly needed in this time. For some of you, this is to do with religious iconography or souvenirs, maybe you collect, like, no shade on any religion here, but maybe you connect the jankiest version of a particular souvenir, because Lords is particularly famous for its tacky output in terms of, selling glow-in-the-dark music boxes to tourists, etc. And there is something about, you cleanse your space, but you don't cleanse those things, and they need dusting off, wiping down, lemon juicing, praying over, whatever, because they too are a part of the space, and you kind of forget. I don't know, that's really specific. Oh, hand is buzzing again. Okay, we're in it. We're going. Bats. You've been watching bats at night, or you've been watching documentaries about bats. Look into bat as a totem. I think Jordana Van's got a really good video on that, which I'll link down below if I remember. But bat as a plutonic, cyclical representative, if you like, for what's currently going on in the world, RE, pandemic, etc., is a really useful thing to look into if you're more spiritually inclined. And I get that my pile 2s are more than my pile 1s. You're more kind of in the practitioner-y vibe. So yeah, look into bat. Even to Batman, you can apply Batman to spirituality. There's a bit of a chaos magic-y kind of, what do different versions of Batman teach you, and what do your preferred versions of Batman teach you about yourself? I know, like, when this is airing, there's just been a Batman movie, but I'm getting all of the Batmans. And I'm getting, for some of you, this is specific to the comics as well. Like, what are your favourite Batmans? Batmen. And how does that relate to a question you've been having about practice? I don't know how, but you do you. Let me know down below, I'm intrigued. I also integrate some comicsy stuff, and general chaos magic-y, kaiju heavy and all that sort of stuff. On that layering, everything is a mirror of everything else. There is something you're not seeing about why something is happening, and it's a layer that you're seeing repeated in media. So in some cases it's like a subterfuge. There is something going on that you've been watching in a programme that is also going on in your life, and you just don't know. And this is your confirmation that yes, it is that thing. That's not for everyone. None of this is for everyone, it's general, but you know what I mean. But definitely something about the layers of things. I'm seeing onions. So there's kind of like the layers of the thing reflect the next layer of the thing. I hope that makes sense. It's like if you put a mirror behind yourself when looking into a mirror, there's a very different effect. Ooh, that'll be magically useful for some of you. Let me know, because mirrors are very strong things. What happens when you do that? Fuck around and find out, is what I'm being told. Excellent. You do that. And I mean that in a positive sense. I'm not saying it to be threatening. I mean genuinely, sorry. Do fuck around and find out. There's something to do with mirrors and patterns and layering and onions. Okay. Bodily stuff, right. Alright. Shoulder pain in the left side for some of you. Going down into your ribs occasionally, but mainly around shoulder. You think it's posture related, but there's a reason it's in that side of your body. I don't know whether that's meaning that there's an esoteric reason. Generally speaking, when I'm channeling stuff, it does. So left side would be kind of yin, receptive, intuitive, etc. All those associations. Not to condone binaries, but just this is how we do. Left and right are different things, and we talk about them differently. Yeah, it's not your posture. There's something else going on there. For some of you, this requires a checkup, and you know it does. It may be even like something lymphy that's making your shoulder hurt now. Not a medical professional, not giving professional medical advice. What I am saying is see someone who does. And if that doesn't resonate, it's just like a pulled muscle or something, but it's on the left side and it's shoulder and ribs. Or even if it's a new tattoo or something that's making it ache. What is the thing there? Grandma? What about grandma? Ask your grandma what she thinks it is. Dead or alive, doesn't really matter. She'll answer anyway. Sorry, that sounds insensitive, but again, this is my practitioner pile, so you probably follow what I mean. But yeah, there's something about that left-hand side thing, even if it's just to confirm this is your pile. But there's a reason it's on the left and not the right-hand side. What do left and right mean to you? What associations do you have with left and right? And it's nothing serious that's being stressed. It's not, it's not anything that you need to be fearful about. It's just that you need to pay attention. The body is always giving us these messages of it's communicating back to us stuff that we didn't get from everything else that is happening, that we didn't sort of divine in augury, fashion. Excuse me, I'm hiccuping, which is a cute pause. Blue ball, the blue ball was for you, right? Before I got to doing this and filming, I was getting a vision of a blue bouncy ball that somebody's child or pet is just incessantly playing with, and it's driving you up the wall. It is okay to hide the blue ball. It is okay to say that the blue ball is rolled under some furniture, and that we can't get to it right now, or indeed that it's time to play with another toy or whatever, just to sort of save yourself for a couple of days. It's not unethical, it's fine. You can lie about it in this case. You're being given permission to lie to your child, or indeed just hide that particular toy or whatever from the pet. But a blue ball is specific to it. There's also a blue ball message for pile 3 if you're watching all of these, but it's a different message, so I'll get to that in a minute. Blue ball. What next, guys? Cane, sugar cane. Either a walking cane or a sugar cane. Are some of you giving up sugar or something? Little sugar. Ah, I see. Sorry, my little finger was touching that and getting the shakes. Okay, so you've been trying to cut down on sugar or trying to eliminate it completely, but you keep putting a little bit of stuff in stuff because a little bit won't do any harm. Or you're using like honey or agave or something instead of sugar. That's not going to cut it, my friend. You need to be off it. You need to be off the sweetness for a bit, like fully. Little and often is just the same as a spoonful and then nothing else for the rest of the day. You know what I mean? It's going to affect your system physiologically in the way that you crave sweetness, and the effects of sweetness and insulin and all the other nasty interactions with the body that sugar has are going to happen. No offence to my sweet producers and honey producers out there, because it is something that is great in small doses, but this is specifically for someone who wants to eliminate sugar but has been having like sugarish or sugaresque, even if it's like drinks with sweeteners and stuff. You've been told, no, you need to get rid of the sweet taste altogether just for a bit, maybe even as like a little bit of a fast to concentrate on something and pray and whatever. Yeah, big on the pray. Maybe you're praying for strength to give up sugar. That Again, there may be stuff for you in pile 3 because there's some weight loss stuff in pile 3 that I'm already getting. Don't add a tiny bit of honey to your coffee or whatever it is that you're doing. It's not working. You need to give it up. All right. Sprinkles? Oh God, I'm hearing sprinkle. If any of you are familiar with the channel that comes from. I am not familiar, I hasten to add. I've just heard it because I was looking into something else. By crikey, but that may be a message for some of you, the sprinkle stuff. You know what I mean if you're here. It's just confirmation, it's not anything really. Yeah, no, it is just exclusively that message, it's not to do with fairy dust or anything. Right, blimey, you guys are really going for it today. Pile 3. Okay, so firstly we're going to do the blue ball thing that came up in pile 2. Yours is slightly different, but I need to get this out of the way while I remember it. Blue ball for them was about a bouncy ball or a squeaky toy. Blue ball for you is about an event. You are thinking of going to something black tie, be it a prom, a dance, or just like a gig that's like really important to you, or something like first date, or I don't know. But it's something dressy, right? It's something where you have to, maybe you're meeting the parents or something. Something dressy. You're thinking, should I wear the blue thing? Absolutely is the answer. You will look banging. Wear the blue. Blue ball being like, you shall go to the ball, right? For some of you, it's a drag thing. You need to wear the blue one. Because I'm hearing... Yeah. Okay. Next bit. There was a sugar message in pile 2, so you may be torn. But specifically for those of you who are on a weight loss journey, hello, how are you doing? There is an item of clothing that you thought that you couldn't fit into, and you've done so well that you can now try it on, and you're pretty close. If it doesn't fit entirely, you're like at the threshold, and trying it on will be a good experience because you'll see like the progress that you've made since the last time. Like, I don't know whether it's like, and I think this is kind of an unhealthy behaviour sometimes, but you know, you might have a pair of jeans or a dress or something folded up in the back of your wardrobe, and you're like, should I? I don't know whether I'm at a place where I feel healthy enough for that yet. But absolutely, because it will spur you on. And there's pride in your progress here coming through. You've done really well, right? So don't stop now. But also, it's working, right? For those of you who are pursuing healthy weight loss, that's not a statement on what size anybody should be happiest at, you know? It's coming through. There's also, the way I got that message was by looking at my dress, because I'm also on a weight loss journey and I've managed to fit into a smaller size today, and I'm pretty pleased at my progress on that. But there's something, like when I sort of looked at this dress to see where it was from, to kind of say that initially, I'm noticing I have it on backwards. It ain't something I'm proud of, gang. But I'm like, sorry, I hit my mic in doing that. But yeah, in order to like tell you more about the dress, I don't know why I was doing that, but I've just seen that I in fact have the label at the front, and that I went to check the label at the front, even though it's counterintuitive. And this is leading me to a conversation I had with a friend the other day where we were talking about Alanis Morissette and the lyrics, your sweater is on backwards. No, my sweater is on backwards and inside out, and you say, how appropriate. So for some of you, this is nothing to do with weight, and it's a jagged little pill message or a Alanis fan message. And for some of you, or Alanis, sorry, I don't know how you say it really, which is banging, because yay, big fan here. She was my childhood. But conversely, it could be that you're feeling a bit discombobulated. You maybe got your stuff on backwards. You're a bit out of sorts, and if so, that's the power for you. Or maybe listening to that album, if you are like affiliated, will be a good thing for you. I'm feeling some of you are discombobulated because you're angry, and that listening to angry music, even if you think Alanis is a bit naff or whatever, but something a bit sort of post-breakup-y and empowering and maybe even a bit angry would be good to listen to right now to raise your energy level and help you to feel more organised and less like you've got everything on backwards. There's also a message for those of you who are interested in the fairy folk with that, because there's another conversation with another friend about areas of land in which it feels like you need to turn your coat inside out. And if you're in that thing, you'll know what I mean. But you're being called to explore somewhere new in terms of working with that. And you don't need to go for it on a map or look it up in like a list of ley lines or whatever the hell you look up for these things in your own practice. It's a place that you are going to be drawn to, and you're going to know when I say this, like, oh, I need to go over there and do it. But it's not where you normally do that work. And if you want to put some of your clothes on inside out while you do it, that will absolutely help. But depends what kind you're working with, I guess. For some of you, this will sound absolutely like, what? But the people it's for will get it. I'm speaking largely in euphemisms there. Moon, Luna. Some of you have a cat called Luna, or have been working very closely with the moon phases. Keep an eye on this channel if so. I'm not just saying that for subscribers, but there will be some lunar stuff coming up, shall we say. But that needs to be something that you don't just do at particular phases. I'm seeing quite literally a moon in the daytime that's very visible. So it's like you need to carry the moon through into areas where you wouldn't have carried it. Or you need to carry this lunar understanding through the month and not just work with the moon at the full moon or at the dark moon or at the point where the moon is in your sign or you have a particularly funky transit or whatever. Yeah, you're bringing in moon to the day. So there's also a relationship between sun and moon there. That might ping something off for some of you, but not for everyone. For some of you, you pick pile 2 as well, and the achy thing is a sun-moon tattoo, specifically in the place I was on about. But that's very... it's very niche in terms of who that's for. Okay, what else? Give me something more. Tucked in, being tucked in. Are they being tucked in or are they tucking someone in? There's something to do with smoke and being tucked in. That's all I'm getting for that, guys. It's not clear whether... Because I was like, oh, is someone, coming through to say they're tucking you in at night? It's not specifically that. And it's, are you tucking in a child at night? It's not specifically that. But there's like... It's almost like a candle's going out and there's smoke and then tucked in. Don't know. Let me know. I'm as intrigued as you are, but that'll hit for someone. Some of you are going to film or do photography or something like that at somewhere like abandoned or urbexy, I'm getting like warehouse vibes, like how everybody's band when we were teenagers, we all used to have a photo shoot at like a derelict warehouse, and it was just a standard thing. Or at least, I'm speaking from a metal teenagedom there. It's probably not as appropriate in other musical genres, but you get what I mean. Like, there's that vibe to it, and you were going to do something at some kind of place where you would either have to trespass or you would be using something run down and disused as a backdrop. Told delay that, don't do it yet. Because if you are trespassing, you're going to be discovered, or if you're urbexing, it might be more dangerous than you thought, or there's something about it that's like, not yet, my dude. For those of you who are doing a recce for a film, it's that there is something better coming along soon, or that the shoot needs to be postponed for something better to happen, for someone to be more available or something like that. So don't do it yet. Don't do it when it's scheduled for. If you have to make an excuse because you can't tell other people involved that you were told this by a tarot reader, that's absolutely fine, you do you. I totally permit white lies on this channel, in terms of you like going to people and going, gee guys, maybe we could do something else that day, for no reason at all. But yeah, there is guidance to not do that there. Or not yet, for some of you, not yet. You'll know which bit of it is... You'll feel which bit of it is right. TV glow. Some of you have been staying in all the time and maybe doing a bit of Netflix, and you need to head out. It's like you've got a... like how people get a wow tan when they've been gaming too long? It's like you're illuminated by the TV glow, but you're not actually by a TV. So maybe you get home from work and all you do is sit in front of a screen. And that's not great for you, and that's, you're being shoved into, you need to be around other things and in other environments for your mental health. Some of you are noticing my Star Wars ring. Hi, how are you doing? It's from Glowing Collectibles on Etsy. Again, I'll link it down below if I remember. I say glowing because it does glow. It looks like it's steel, but it has a glow-in-the-dark effect. And I've got the Ahsoka one, but you can get any old lightsaber colour for it, and they're great. Crinoline? Are some of you designing costumes for things? Anyway, that's confirmation if you are. Maybe that's to do with the film set thing, like using a location that's an older building or something. But anyway, crinoline. God knows. Maybe you've been binging something with, you know, period costume. But either way, it's the over-binging and the TV glow is not a good thing right now. Not to say it's an inherently bad behaviour, it's just that it's being used as a bit of a freeze response at the minute, and it's not healthy for you. You need to get out and about, or at least like call a friend or something instead. For some of you, it will help not to eat in front of the TV. In some way. I don't know whether that's helping digestion, helping weight loss, helping just in terms of mindful eating or in prayer over food or whatever, but there's something about not eating in front of the TV. And that's a wrap, I think. Right, let's get to piles. Woo! Pile A, I'm gonna, whoa, okay. I was gonna say I'm gonna shuffle a little bit, but 2 of these want to come out. Just again to prove it's live and also just to refresh. Oh no, you're up here, are you? Okay. I never pick cards like that. I don't know whether you could see that, but I separated the decks, so some of you are... I don't know, you're doing things differently. Let's have a look. That's, yeah. Got a bit of a difference to the layout I would normally do with this, but let's go for it. I'm just blathering. Right, let's get your keyword. Athleticism. Okay. There's a real theme between piles this week, isn't there? Alright. Okay, this really will be quite a short one for you guys because it's a very straightforward message. Somebody has shamed you or made judgments about you in terms of physical appearance or like some kind of athletic endeavour. So for some of you, you will be people who do a lot of sports and you've been shamed, shunned, judged or passed up for kind of promotion within teams, etc. By somebody who is like an authority above you. For others, it will be just that you have been shamed when you tried to work out. So there is some kind of hesitancy of going back to the gym, or a feeling of like just being really attacked from all sides, like body shamed, or you know, you had one crucial game that didn't go well, or you gave up a particular athletic thing, like you stopped going to the gym for a while, or you stopped a hobby that was particularly athletic, and in stopping that, people who have no business making comments about it, or about your body, or about how you choose to spend your time, commenting on it, or people in authority in relation to that, if you are like in those professions, have commented in a very sort of one-time way, where they've taken your performance on one day and use that to make assumptions, generally speaking, about your athleticism. I'm being pushed to say this is entirely incorrect. It's not a reflection of like your capabilities in that arena at all. It's frankly dog shit on their part, but it's definitely mentally affected you in a more long-term way than you may have given room for. It feels almost like a general judgment rather than a judgment coming from an individual, but I can absolutely tell you that it is not the opinion shared by everybody. It is not the opinion of like quote unquote spirit, if you're one of the people who is with me on how I do this. But if you're not, and again, this is my skeptic pile, I think, so it's just like, it's not a general opinion, and that if it was a game, that game doesn't reflect how well you do in general. If it was that your body changed a little bit, maybe you had some like illness recovery, or you just didn't have time to work out in the same way for a bit, or like, I don't know, you just weren't at full health. And it was a very backbitey thing to do, to comment on that. It was very shadowy on this person or these people's part. I think it's a group, actually, just because we're seeing a group here. Or at least it was like some comment somewhere and then other people agreed with it in a way that they fucking shouldn't have. And I'm really sorry if that happened to you. That's awful. But yeah, it's made you feel like crap for a good long while now. Past tense, but long-term past tense, I think. If this is something that happened more recently, that's just to indicate that it's really permeated your days and your nights in a way that you're not giving full space to, right? But I do, particularly for those of you who identified with being physically fit, or who were in a profession or sponsorship or something that required that, it's like, this has completely messed with you, just in general, that this was said. Even if at the time you agreed along and said, yeah, that wasn't my best game, or yeah, you know, I've got a bit of a paunch now that I've got children, or, you know, I've been going out a lot more at night, so I've got a bit of a beer belly, or whatever it is, right? You may have kind of agreed to cover on it, but I get the sense that it still was really hurtful and awful. And it's the reason we got athleticism today, as a random word, is initially to tell you that you're not to listen to that opinion or that evaluation of you as being a broadly applicable thing. It's not true. We have a couple of cards that are about truth, and it is not genuine, it is not legit. It may have been that you were out of shape for a bit, it may have been that you weren't on best form in a certain circumstance. This could even be a sexual thing, where it was like you didn't have the athletic prowess that a particular partner expected. And you know what, that's fine, because people do things differently, and you should not have been shamed for that. And arguably it's like, well, how many people are they comparing you with, and how fishy is it to compare people in that sense? But anyway, essentially this wasn't your fault. It's not something that you long-term need to be dwelling on. And it's kind of a bit like, yeah, nah. But I acknowledge that it has given you great sadness. The 10 is the most sadness you can have in a suit, and the suit of swords is particularly martial, aggressive, defensive. Maybe even for some of you, if the channeled messages were relevant, you've been told that you're not athletic enough anymore for a particular role within the military or within government, or something along those lines, or you've had an injury that stops you from doing that, and you feel shame about it. But it's not who you are, right? It's just what you were on that day. And there were all kinds of circumstantial things that these people didn't even give time to that affected what it was. And I think that's why it hurts, actually, because it's disingenuous. You know, there are some schools of thought out here that maintain that when we feel negative emotions about something, it's because on some level that concept disagrees with what we know to be true. You know, that it's sort of, in an inner sense, it's like somebody calling you names doesn't just make you feel shit because that's a crappy thing to do. It makes you feel shit because your inherent self disagrees with that label as an identifier, and your body is giving you the emotion and telling you that you don't need to agree with this. You feel sadness or anger or whatever because it's not the truth of you, or because it's asking you to examine something which is or which is relevant, that's linked to that emotion. But I'm getting this strong thing of like, you wouldn't feel so strongly about this, even if on a completely secret and private level, if it was a genuine thing or a fair judgment. It wasn't fair. And it's made you feel very foolish in the present. You may have tried to kind of re-enter the field or the vein that you were in with it. You may have gone back to the gym. I'm seeing with a friend for some of you. Or you may have joined a new team or gotten back into sport after an injury or whatever. But you feel like a fool doing it. You feel a gaze, a presence of observation that you didn't feel before these judgments were made. And that's really sad. And I'm sorry that that's your present moment vibe. But the sort of message coming through for like, well, firstly, we need to ground that this judgment isn't truth. It's in a different placement. This is the up here and this is down below. That's not necessarily related to as above, so below, but, you know, it's certainly not within this reading. But it's saying that the broad opinion perpetuated by this person in whatever way, or this group of people, is not the down low, grounded truth, right? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing to say about it, just moving along, sorry if you hear my chair squeak, is that going back to the gym or entering the team again or getting back into it, going for a run, doing whatever it is at your pace that you're doing for your body to feel healthy again and get back into the groove of what feels like it would have been quite an athletic persona or quite a sporty person if given half a chance. This is a really positive movement forward. This is a good thing to be doing. And almost, counterintuitively, it will help your finances to do this. Even if you're paying a gym membership and you weren't before, long term there is going to be something about your money that benefits from you doing this. So for those of you that are doing this professionally, obviously getting back into it is going to help money come in and help your flow of abundance in a more general sense. But for those of you where that doesn't apply, and this is just about your personal health and well-being and your joy in playing a sport, or your pride in yourself for, you know, cultivating a healthy body via things like the gym or yoga or whatever, the more secure you feel in that self, that aspect of healthy self, the better you're going to present yourself, and that's going to have an influence on your work and your money. Either because you're in an appearance-based field, and that's very broad. I'm counting YouTube within that. I'm counting all kinds of social media stuff. But stuff where people look at your picture and kind of make judgments about the services you can offer based on that. It's going to help with that you feel more settled in your own body. And it's also going to help in terms of your confidence in presenting ideas, maybe like boardroom stuff, maybe interactions with others. And you kind of, without this reading, you wouldn't see that that was the thing that will help your finances. But this is here to tell you that that's the next step. And it's almost like maybe you came here to ask for a money reading. And that may come up in different piles, I don't know yet. But it's like we're not giving you a money reading. We're telling you to deal with this completely unrelated feeling that is in fact going to be the thing that fixes your financial flow. Yeah, and helps you to feel good about yourself and about your money. And that's at any size. I really couldn't give a shit how you present to other people. This is an all-inclusive channel. But this is about taking steps to be healthy for you or to enjoy a sport. Or it's something to do with well-being as well. And when that well-being improves, maybe even a mental health improvement, that will have a beneficial effect on your finances, your career, your purpose within work, etc. Or just like the flow of abundance coming into your life. But I'm thinking particularly work-based for this. It's doing that at me. And that's not always the case with this 5. But the other thing to say about 5s in a more general sense, and not with this kind of Rider-Waite interpretation that's going around at the moment, it's like that size doesn't fit all, right, in tarot. Certainly in cartomancy. It's much more intuitive, and the broader sense in 5s is having a chaotic element come into a place that was once balanced, read 4, right? So there's something unexpected happening within money as a direct result of you feeling better about this and not listening to this bullshit opinion over here. Please don't. I don't know whether it's that you were just being judged on a moment where you were particularly stressed out or you weren't playing at your best, or whether it's that the people judging you in a broader sense were just a bit toxic, but please don't listen. Honestly. Just go about your business, get back into doing what you were doing. My hand's on the amethyst, so amethyst may help you because I'm being drawn to, like, hold it. Get back on it. If you need to take a friend to the gym, take a friend to the gym. If you need to just be out walking your dog, that's another interpretation of this. But get moving again, right? In whatever way that is possible for you. Because that is part of your pathway. And I don't want you to let a few shady comments knock you off that. Because if you keep going with it and you respect yourself and you do it for yourself, it's going to really help financially. So if you found that useful and you'd like to book something more private and more specific with me, the link is down below. Equally, if you want to leave me a tip for this, there's a PayPal button, well, link I should say, it's not really a button. Or just like the video, share it with friends, subscribe, look out for further letters of the alphabet coming in hot, and or give me any words, even words beginning with A, down below that you want adding to the envelope for the sessions. So yeah, and if it didn't resonate with you, I hope that you at least got something useful out of it, and I hope your day's great. I'll see you later. Hello Pile 2, I can already tell you've got lovely energy. There's a very stressed out vibe for Pile 1, and there's like a warm feeling with you guys, that's very nice. Right, let's get going, and then we'll see what your word is. Okay. I'm shuffling these so that you can see that there are completely random things and that I can't see them because I'm sat behind the camera. Your word is accident. Okay, many interpretations of that, so no fear, we will see what's going on. Oh, hello. Right, first off, just unrelated to cards, there's an additional channel thing. Make sure you're not late for the Zoom room, right? Or make sure that, yeah, there's some kind of meeting and you're going to be doing it from home, so you might run over on time. I'm getting that because I had a similar anxiety about something with me and I took a break before this. So that's, but yeah, just make sure you've got your eye on the clock, okay? Right, let's have a nib. Okay, Pile 2. This is a caution about online stuff. I can't remember where that came up in the channeled at the beginning, whether it was Pile 2 or not, but there was, I was talking about crystals at one point, fluorite and sort of behaviour online. This reading is getting very specific with that stuff, so it may be that this is something you resonated with, but accident, we're not talking about like a big accident in terms of an event or a crisis or anything, you know, tragic. We're talking about accidentally saying too much or being a bit exposed in some way, or accidentally giving yourself away to somebody who does not have your interests at heart. This is your confirmation. This is the overseeing card, and I get specifically in this interpretation, because of how I've been working with it lately, that it is referencing online interactions. There is, in the past, you were very compassionate with somebody, or possibly gave them a romantic offer, not for all of you, but there's certainly like a loving, maybe even maternal energy directed towards somebody, but it was done so in a sphere that was quite public and online. So this may be like a social media thing that other people can see, or just a social media thing where it's not too secure. Like maybe you were chatting to someone on Tinder and then you went into like other kinds of messaging and you can't really vouch for their number at the other end, or you made a public comment on a picture, or I don't know, but it's like, it's public and it's online, but it's not entirely public in the nature of what you were saying. So it's like you were seen to be online friends or partners or whatever in a way that was not great. Like it was great in terms of your intention and what you were giving and the energy that you were coming from. It wasn't great timing, and it also wasn't great in terms of other people who do not have the interests of this in mind. So for some of you, there's like two roads with this. For some of you, this is a romantic relationship where you're a little bit too expressive in a place that someone else can see and they're not happy about it. And they're sending, consciously or unconsciously, they're not sending great things your way. They're not wishing you well. And there's anger and impulsiveness around this, because this looks like one of the wands, but it's in the wrong place. Again, in the wrong place, right? It's something that you left out for a person to see, but it's in the wrong place. If this isn't relationship based, or it's not that you're like potentially sending stuff to the wrong place, or potentially like dealing with somebody who might misuse your stuff, if you follow me. If that's not the case, this is somebody who you were just very compassionate with, and they're not, you being openly compassionate with them in a public forum is going to be misused, because they're not in a good state right now. They're coming up as the devil. Now, that's not always the case for the relationship thing. I actually think if this is a love narrative, the person who's showing up as the devil is the person jealous of you, that's like, why the F is this person commenting on this or saying this, or, you know, why are you sending text to my person, or whatever the hell it is, right? So that's them in that case. But if it's not romantic, the person that you are expressing compassion towards, perhaps even who has been involved in some kind of accident in the more literal sense, they're coming at you with several heads on. They're coming at you in an addicted, discombobulated, kind of angry, kind of temptation-based place for the moment. They carry a lot of resentment which isn't directed at you, but there's a danger of it presently being directed at you because you did this thing where you either said the wrong thing, or it was the wrong timing, or it was in the wrong place. I am getting wrong place, wrong time more than anything else. The bull and the lion are jumping out to me, so Leo Taurus stuff may be relevant, but I don't usually like reading signs into cards because everyone's astrology is so complex, and I don't like perpetuating that pop astrology sun sign bullshit. Speaking of astrology, for those of you who are practitioners, your sort of immediate future in this is to look at your transit times. When would it be best to reconcile? When would it be... Reconcile is an interesting word. When would it be best to retract this? Maybe even delete it? Or to at least negotiate the fact that it was a bit out of place, or it's causing problems, or maybe approach a third party, or whatever it is. Look to your transits, look to what the skies are doing if you know how to do that. If you don't know how, or it's not your bag and you think astrology is bollocks, that's absolutely fine. This reading is for you too. And I would say that this is just an emphasis on the fact that this was the wrong time to be there in that way, or to use the phrase that you used. And unfortunately, the governing thing of this reading is that information online it has a kind of permanence. For a very small group of you, this will be about public shaming, or about leaked photos, or being accountable in the wrong place at the wrong time, and there being a kind of permanency to that because it's online now, and you kind of can't remove that. You can't take back the traces, and that's not to alarm you. It's just to say that timing needs to be really considered when you approach how to deal with this, because it's not a traditional timing card, but it does depict an astrologer in this particular deck, and therefore I'm looking at timing, I'm looking at transits, I'm looking at being very strategic with this instrument over here about what it is that you do next, how incrementally you do it, who you do it to, who you address about this, and what the next step kind of is beyond just picking right time, right place again. But the fact that it's coming up shows that you can get back into the quote-unquote correct energy, or the correct kind of stream of things. You can get back on the path of this going all right. but it's asking as a reading for discernment, and this could become quite a major issue because you've got 3 major arcanas and a queen. So we're not dealing with petty little numbers here, we're not dealing with little group fight type stuff, we're dealing with something which is very impactful, even if the figures involved aren't immediately of importance to you. For those who are really uncomfortable looking to the stars for any kind of instruction in terms of transits and timing, there's also an indication to ask an elder or to ask somebody who's an authority on technology or on these kinds of dynamics in some way for advice on what to do next. So for those of you who've maybe, like I say, with the Tinder thing or the Pix thing or anything like that, you feel me with that direction. I'm not going to really articulate it heavily because of the nature of the channel, but if that resonates for you, it may be that you go to somebody for whom this has happened to them and you say, how do I deal with it? How do I approach dealing with this person? Take evidence, take screenshots, make sure that you know what number you were doing things with. And if that's all, nonsense to you and you're like, what's she getting at? Or you know what I'm getting at and it doesn't apply. This is just about going to somebody in a position of authority compared to you on this issue and saying, how do I talk to this person? So if it's like you've been complimentary and it's an extramarital complimentary thing and then you've got a very aggravated partner, this might be going to an advisor or a parent or a priest and saying, look, I think I've gone out of bounds here. How do I get back on track? Or it may be just kind of going over the head of whichever person is presenting as the devil and, addressing something there or deleting a comment or even an account. But there's some way that you can backtrack partially on this whilst maintaining integrity. Like, you don't have to cover your tracks in the snow, but there is a way of saying, gee, that was mistimed, or I probably overstepped there, or I didn't really mean it like this, just in case anyone's watching, or something. But you need to consult something outside of yourself in order to get exactly what the balance of that is. And the lesson in all of this process, not the outcome, because the outcome is this consultation really, but the lesson in all of this is the 8 of Pentacles, which is doing things bit by bit, being very conscious of your actions at every possible stage. When I said this part of the sentence, how did it come across? When I also said this part, or I put it over here instead of over here, or I engaged with this person in a second-hand way, or whatever it is. How could the incremental pieces of what went on here be tweaked and altered in future so that this mistake isn't repeated and so that my reputation and the reputation of all those involved remains intact, but so that you are still free to express yourself and still free to be compassionate and be supportive, because there's a very big sort of thing here of what you did or said was not what was wrong with this. Particularly for those of you who just sent compassion in the direction of somebody who's particularly hurt and acting out of sorts and grumpy right now, and maybe took what you said the wrong way, and now you're like, oh shit, it's on the internet forever, oh god. It's saying you didn't do badly with this, it's just that the timing was not in your favour for it. So please do, be you, be emotionally expressive, be kind, be complimentary, be supportive, share your inner feelings or inner circumstances to the extent that it's safe to share those. And again, we spoke in the channels about the witch's pyramid and the silent component, right? And being mysterious in order to protect things. But to the extent that it's reasonable, you absolutely can continue to express yourself in the way that you have been doing. This is not a mark on you. This is to do with who you were dealing with and the platform on which this interaction occurred. okay? So I hope that's helpful. If you want to get a more private reading with me, Etsy shop link is down below. This will obviously be more specific than a general reading as well. And if you'd like to donate because this was a useful reading for you, or you just think the channel's right or whatever, there is also a PayPal thing. But you're not obliged to either of those things. I'm just glad you're here. Click like if you liked it. Don't if you didn't. Subscribe and hit the bell if you're up for more content regarding these letters. Comment down below if you want any words included, bearing in mind the sort of stuff we talked about at the beginning. And I do hope to see you again, but if not, I hope you have a lovely day. Pile 3, hello. You're perky. Have you just been like dancing around or watching something that made you really happy, or talking to someone that brightened your day or something? Because yeah, I mean, I said it about pile 2 that there was a higher vibe than pile 1, but there really is something going on here. And your the swift communication, because your cards came out just like that, and for the other piles I had to shuffle for a little longer, but yours, you knew where they were. This one's a possible clarifier, so we'll see. Yeah, it's kind of like, oh yes, we're doing this. So there may be something there about like confirmation for you that clear communication is happening, or that you're particularly on it today, in which case please send some of that energy my way. Right, your word is abandoned. Interesting. Were you the pal that got the I think you were the pal with the channel message about the literal abandoned place or urbex space? So for some of you it might be partially to do with that as well. Or that's just a confirmation that you're in the right spot. Let's have a look what else you got. Sorry for the haphazard presentation of these. I would normally have a bit more table space, but hey ho. Okay. We are going to flip this clarifier. We are. Right. Okay, sorry if you hear shuffling noises. I'm just getting comfortable. Pile 3. You are in a mode of indecision. This is about something that happened which was quite catastrophic, potentially in childhood, because the thing I'm noticing about this variation of this card is that whilst it represents crisis, the person on it looks particularly happy. Let's hold this up. They've got a kind of expression of childlike joy / obliviousness to what is going on around them. So it seems like something happened that either was happening so early that you weren't aware that it was fairly catastrophic, or if that doesn't hit at all, because I'm reading for a big audience, it may be that something has happened recently through which you've kind of been able to put on a happy face, because you've been relatively unclear about the fact that it could be so impactful, shall we say. And that's not to say that it's a crisis and everything's terrible and that's your reading over with. It's to say that this past tense, something kind of dodgy has happened, particularly with the group, the herd. I'm seeing all the rams here. For some of you, snow will hit if this hits. I don't know why. Anyway. So something particularly impactful has gone off. You've been at a distance from it, or you've been like still carrying on, toddling on, feeling fine. That may just be the way that you cope with things, or it may be that there was some kind of ignorance as to the full extent of this while it was going on. But in the present, it's bleh. Wow. Okay, it was a communication issue. Whether that's a miscommunication, you may also have picked pile 2, hello, or whether it's you couldn't say something, but that was fine at the time, or some people couldn't speak to each other. For some of you, if this is a childhood thing, this could be a divorce happening around you, but it's very much affecting your present. Don't kid yourself about this. Whatever it is, right, there's this sense that you were stepped back from it and immune to it, in a way. Immune is an interesting word as well. But there was some kind of what should have been abandonment of you, of a project, of a marriage, which actually you were kind of fine with, and which didn't feel like abandonment at the time. Now, I don't want to be mean or anything, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems to me like that's sort of creeping back up on you at the moment, and that if you didn't deal with it then, you're dealing with it in the present. And if it is a childhood thing and you're like in your 50s, 60s, 70s watching this, just know that that's fine. We process stuff at different stages and for different reasons. You may have interacted with some kind of stimuli where it's just coming to the fore. But that may not resonate for all. It's certainly like it's feasible, because this is general, that it could be a much more recent event and you were just like, oh, that's fine, I'm sure that won't cause any problems. And then dun dun dun, and it turns out a week later that actually it's fucked the whole thing, right? Because we're coming more into the sense of, yes, indecision, yes, confusion, yes, but how did this get this way and why is it important now? But also we're getting into like bickering and fighty energy, conflict, kind of people being protective over their own in a way that's really like nitpicky and a bit nasty. It's not a big conflict energy. We're not talking like a lifelong feud or a war or something like that. We're talking more like water cooler bullshit, as expressed in some of my other readings, or kind of just people getting at each other. Just people not, it's like a family around a dinner table saying passive-aggressive stuff, but nobody really addresses what the problem is, that kind of energy. Although equally could apply at work, particularly if you do resonate with the abandoned and the creative stuff that came up before. And I think you're being drawn into this because you're kind of realising that you were abandoned in whatever it was that this was. It could have been that a decision was made without your consent, and actually you should have been informed, particularly in a professional setting, or you should have at least been asked what you thought before things were going ahead. Or it could be kind of on a much deeper level that you were literally abandoned by a parent or by a person early on because of something that should have taken how you would react to that into consideration more. Now, like I say, at the time you may have identified with being very happy. I can also speak as somebody who had what should have been a very traumatic childhood, in which I was quite content because I was in my own world for a lot of it. But there's certainly that kind of energy around it, and for many there's an escape to nature that facilitates that insulation, as well as protection from whatever it is that you believe in, even if that's just yourself. But it's coming up now, it's coming into the present moment, it's becoming relevant again because of this finicky, nitpicky echo that's somewhere of what happened. Be that in the same group of people or in a completely different group. I mean, for some of you, it's as simple as I saw a show where a family had a fight that made me remember a bunch of stuff and I didn't like that. Or it's like this same group that didn't consult me are now fighting at the boardroom or fighting about where we have our set for our movie or whatever it is, right? But it's been brought into presence, it's been brought into your awareness, and you're finding this video today, whether or not you're into my channel, whether you're into tarot, because it's relevant for you to think about this now in more depth. So moving from this one into the Five of Swords. Can I count as well as spell words with letters of the alphabet? We shall see. Moving into Five of Swords, there's a judgment about this that needs to be made of kind of who... It's too harsh to say it in its traditional interpretation, which would be who won and who lost out of this. But it's not as black and white as that, and I don't think much is, actually. There's a traditional thing with this card about like being a sore winner, and there's certainly that energy coming from outside, and some of you may have noticed already that there's somebody watching over this whole process, somebody spying, somebody seeing. Little micro message for those who also pick pile 2. The person that you are visible to in an internety way may be somebody that you didn't want to be able to see you, who is now watching you online. Very, very, like I say, micro message, not for everyone. But there's an evaluation process going on as to like, okay, well, if I didn't feel this at the time, was I actually immune to it? Did I come out like winning? And if it was a conflict between other people that you were witness to, long term, who has done the best out of that? Who has had the most of an... sorry, my words are running away before I can get them out. Who has maintained an energy of integrity around this throughout, and in, you know, for some of you, the years afterwards? Who has not? Who has revealed themselves to be reliable, and who has not? Who has done nitpicky, backbitey, spiteful stuff, or miscommunication, and who has not, right? It's a invitation to observe those around you from your position of relative detachment, even if it's upsetting you in the present, and say, if I was evaluating this conflict from an even greater distance, i.e. the time between when it happened and this moment right here, what kind of conclusions would I come to there? And what can they tell me about who won or lost, or who was in the right, or if nobody was in the right, which is very often the case, and people were just hurt, or people were misunderstanding things or reading things wrong. What is it about that leaps out to me as like having a clearer position in context? Because as the person who at the time was okay, it's kind of your job now that you're processing this to be able to see it from a bird's eye view in a way that's potentially not possible for other parties involved. Again, for those who picked pile 2, but in a different way, if this was the relationship thing, the reactions of both of those people is telling you a lot about what their nature is and how much they invest in each other, and indeed what they will and won't condone, etc., just as much as it's telling you about yourself. So yes, accountability, but also observe carefully what other people do when this shit goes down, yeah? And then the kind of earthing of this idea of like confusion and stuff, and not the outcome, but the grounded message underneath all of this story is to do with the Empress. So, splits off into 2 meanings again. For some, this will be directly related to motherhood or to your mother. And what it's telling you is something about your mom, or about you as a mom, depending on who's watching, right? For others, that's okay. The Empress has a bunch of meanings. We're not always going to take motherhood into account. But there's something here about fertility in the broader sense. If you felt abandoned then, or if you now feel abandoned about what happened, how have you since transformed into an energy where you are creative, producing, abundant, fertile, metaphysically? You see what I mean? Like, how has this, in a sense, benefited what you're going to produce next? Again, creatively, this could be really specific to a project. It's like, oh, I learnt from this. There were a load of people backbiting. They didn't consult me on whether to use the abandoned building. They showed themselves for who they are. I felt like I came out okay. I'm a bit more miffed about it now than I was at the time. And I realised from this experience that I can include such and such in my next project, or I can film it without them, or I can do whatever. You know, you do you, again, general reading. But there is this sense of like, it's in relation to your creativity and your ability to produce and your ability to nurture as well. So it may be that you felt abandoned in the sense of going without nurturing, and you are realising this late into life, in which case my thoughts are with you. Put some of that into the lemons, and I will absolutely pray over you if you're in the comments and you say that that's the case, because it's a horrible thing to go through. We need to address the elephant in the room a little bit more. So this came up as a clarifier, but it's also just, you know, it is a person that was watching the signifier for you, not necessarily this person, and they're not necessarily watching this person either. But there is someone observing this, and the Page of Swords always is about spying, be that in the really literal militaristic sense, or in a sense of like having a sneaky Facebook stalk, or watching how somebody uses their words at table and sort of taking notes in private on how that goes down. You know, almost waiting for somebody to make a mistake or waiting for some kind of big reactive thing to happen. For many of you, I feel that this person watching was the abandoner. That may just be, in a practical sense, they didn't turn up for that day. They didn't involve themselves in that conversation and therefore it escalated. Or they abandoned family in some cases. And I'm very sorry if that's you. But they are aware of you, whether or not you are aware of them. So just pay attention to that. And if it resonates as being a digital thing, do have a look at pile 2. I'm not saying that for the view count. I'm saying it because it legit seems to link in. And some of the combinations of cards have got a lot in common. But yeah, you're being watched essentially, and that's not a bad thing. It's not to say that this person is dangerous or that anything's going to come of it. But I suppose that's just another thing to factor into your discernment about what this situation was telling you about your next project, your next road of abundance, how you feel about yourself, how you nurture yourself, how you nurture others, all these kind of empressy themes over at this end. It's interesting to me that I felt compelled to move this card up here, and I can't see the camera to know whether that's so that you see it better, but it's almost like I had to move him away from being able to see you. Him is not indicative of gender, by the way, nor is the mother card. It's just this particular one happens to vibe with me as a he. But that may not be applicable. But yeah, I wanted to move him out of being able to see you. So if you're aware of where you're being spied on by this person, is there a way you can make yourself more hidden? Is there something you can deactivate? Or a kind of discernment, again, pile 2, discernment with communication and timing and where you say certain things and how, that you can apply just so this person's not watching you while you make the decision, because that's the overall influence, of what it is you think about people now that this has all happened. Now that something or someone has been abandoned in this particularly snipey way. I don't know how else to express that, but it's really like, oh, it's just like, oh, stop it, you little bugger. You know, it's like little needles and pins in something. It's needles and pins. Protection work may resonate in that sense for some. But yeah, you didn't feel abandoned, but you were abandoned. But that's okay. Is the sort of overarching thing. And in processing exactly what happened there and staying in this place of tapping into what made you objective at the time or what made you a happy camper while it was all going off behind closed doors, it will help your healing and it will help you to produce. For some of you, very specifically, this is you're thinking of starting a family and you're not sure whether you'd make a good parent because you feel that your parents weren't that great. And the guidance in that case, really specific, is to step back from at least one parent who you think is kind of watching you very carefully in your relationships, and just take a bit of time to pause and to reevaluate and think about why it is that you want the things that you want, why it is that you hold some negative self-concepts. I do a self-concept reading if you're interested. And just kind of get a sense of where all this is coming from and then where it's going. Because it's like you can only leave this stuff past tense if you accept that there was an abandonment in the first place and that a happy veneer doesn't always indicate a happy project or happy circumstance. There was something fishy going on that's being brought to the fore to come to terms with. Sorry, it really is a communication issue because I'm struggling to speak for this pile. Anyway, I hope that was useful to you. Please comment down below if you're comfortable with doing so and if you want to share what it was about. Like if you liked it, click subscribe and ding the dong. Thank you kindly. If you want to see more content from me, If you want to add to the word envelopes, that's great. And like I said in the beginning, anything except proper nouns and names is groovy. But if not, I'll see you around the bend, and I hope you have a lovely day.